There's a sound your cat makes that she doesn't make for anyone else. You probably know it without being able to describe it, not quite a meow, not quite a trill, something softer. Something that only seems to happen when it's just the two of you in a quiet room at an ordinary moment. You've heard it so many times that it's become part of the background of your life together. But here's what most people don't know. That sound didn't come from instinct. It didn't come from hunger or habit or some generic cat behavior. It came from you. And the science behind why she makes it is more profound than most people ever realize. If you've ever wondered what your cat is really trying to say, not just when she's hungry, but in those quiet, in-between moments that feel like they belong only to the two of you, this is the kind of content that was made for that question. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding her, because the more you know, the more you'll realize she's been trying to reach you all along. Think about early morning. The house is still. Maybe the light hasn't fully come in yet, and you're somewhere between sleeps and awake, and then there she is. In the doorway, or at the foot of the bed, or just sitting quietly nearby, and she makes that sound. Not a full meow. Not the sharp, impatient sound she makes when breakfast is late. Something smaller, rounder, almost conversational. A sound you couldn't spell if you tried, and wouldn't know how to play back to someone who'd never heard it. It's hers. It's yours. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you've always felt like it meant something specific, something that had nothing to do with food or need. You were right, it does. Here's the thing that changes how you hear that sound forever. Among adult cats living together, whether in the wild or in multi-cat households, meowing between cats is remarkably rare. Kittens meow at their mothers, that's where the behavior begins. But as cats mature, they largely stop using it with each other. They shift to body language, scent, slow blinks, tail position, a whole vocabulary of silent signals. The loud, insistent, expressive meowing that fills your mornings. Adult cats, for the most part, don't direct that at other cats. They direct it at you. Which means the meow was never really a cat thing. It became a you thing. That realization opens something up, doesn't it? If cats don't naturally meow at each other as adults, then the sound your cat makes specifically in your presence didn't come pre-installed. It wasn't passed down through some feline tradition. It wasn't inherited from her mother. Somewhere along the way, early in your life together, probably before you even noticed, she began to develop sounds that were meant for the person in front of her, for you. The question worth sitting with is, where did those sounds come from? How did they get so specific? And why do they keep changing so subtly over the years? You've probably noticed it already, that her voice around you isn't quite the same as it used to be. Maybe the morning sound has gotten softer. Maybe there's a chirp she developed in the last year that she didn't have before. Maybe the sound she makes when she finds you in a different room than expected has a particular quality, a little more urgent, a little more relieved, that you can't quite name but would recognize anywhere. These aren't accidents, they aren't random variations in cat noise. Each shift, each new layer in her vocal repertoire around you is a small piece of a larger pattern. And that pattern has a name in feline behavioral science: vocal adaptation. What feline behavioral researchers have documented, and this is the part that tends to stop people mid-thought, is that cats in ongoing close relationships with specific humans develop measurably distinct vocalization patterns over time. Not just in terms of what sounds they make, but in pitch, in duration, in the timing between sounds. And these patterns differ depending on who the cat is with. The same cat will vocalize differently with her primary person than she will with a visitor, a stranger, even a second family member she knows well. She has calibrated something. She has built through thousands of ordinary interactions a way of speaking that is tuned to you specifically. This isn't a soft, feel-good interpretation. It's a behavioral observation that researchers who study feline communication have documented across different cats, different households, different relationships. The domestic cat has, over thousands of years of living alongside humans, developed a communication channel with us that simply doesn't exist between cats themselves in the same form. And within that channel, each individual cat makes it her own. Each relationship shapes a slight different dialect. The sounds your cat uses with you are, in a very real sense, sounds that only exist because you exist in her life. It's worth pausing on that for a moment, not rushing past it. Because we live in a world that is quick to reduce the cat-human relationship to something transactional. She tolerates you, she uses you, she'd leave if she could open the refrigerator herself. And most cat owners have heard some version of that, probably from someone who has never really watched a cat. Never sat quietly and noticed the way she adjusts her voice depending on your mood, your movements, your energy. Never heard that sound, the one that's hard to describe, and felt with absolute certainty that it was meant for them alone. You have heard it, and what you heard was real. There's a layer to this that goes deeper than behavioral science can fully articulate, but the science points toward it. It points toward the idea that your cat has been paying attention to you, closely, consistently, over months and years, in ways that have quietly shaped how she communicates. She has been observing you. And the voice she uses in your presence is, in part, a reflection of what she has learned about you. That is not the behavior of a creature who is indifferent. That is something quieter and more patient and more deliberate than indifference. What exactly that looks like in the biology and behavior of a cat, that's where this goes next. To understand how your cat built a voice specifically for you, you have to go back to the very beginning, not of your relationship, but of the meow itself. Feline behaviorists who study the origins of cat vocalization have noted something that feels almost poetic once you sit with it. The meow, in its truest form, is a sound that begins in infancy. Kittens meow at their mothers to signal hunger, cold, separation, distress. It is the original language of need and closeness, the very first sound a cat uses to reach toward another living being and say, I am here. I need you. Come closer. Most adult cats stop using it with other cats entirely, but with you, she never stopped. She kept it. She grew it. She made it into something new. This is what feline ethologists refer to when they discuss neotenic communication, the retention of juvenile behaviors into adulthood, redirected toward a new relationship. What it means in plain terms is this. When your cat meows at you, she is reaching into the oldest, most foundational language she has. The one she used before she knew anything about the world except that closeness mattered, and that sound could create it. She is not performing, she is not calculating. She is drawing on something deep and early and true, and she is pointing it at you. That is not a small thing. That is, in its own way, an act of profound trust, but the neoteny only explains where the behavior comes from. It doesn't explain why her meow sounds different from your neighbor's cat's meow. It doesn't explain why the sound she uses when she finds you in the kitchen at midnight feels different from the sound she makes when she wants the window open. That specificity, that layered, textured, personal quality, comes from something else. It comes from the feedback loop that the two of you have been building together, quietly, without either of you realizing it was happening. She made a sound. You responded in a certain way, she noticed, she filed it away, and then the next time she adjusted. This is the part that tends to land differently once you really let it in. Your cat has been conducting a kind of ongoing, patient study of you. Not in a calculating way, more like the way a person who loves someone pays close attention. She learned which sounds made you turn toward her, which ones made you reach out and touch her, which ones brought you closer, or changed your expression, or softened your voice. And over hundreds, then thousands of these small exchanges, she refined her approach. The sound that now feels most like hers, the one she seems to reserve just for quiet mornings or close moments, that sound was shaped, in part, by how you responded every time she used something like it. You were part of building it, you just didn't know. Research into feline-human communication has shown that cats in established, ongoing relationships with their primary humans develop vocalization patterns that differ in measurable ways from the sounds they make with other people or with other cats. Differences in pitch, in harmonic structure, in the rhythm between sounds. These aren't just subtle variations that only a spectrometer can detect. Many cat owners notice them intuitively, the way you notice when someone's tone shifts even before you parse the words. You know the sound she makes when she's hungry. You know the sound she makes when she wants to be near you but isn't asking directly. Those are different. The distinction is real, and it exists because she made it specifically for a relationship that is specifically yours. Now consider the sound she makes when your partner comes home versus the sound she makes when you come home, or the difference in how she vocalizes when a stranger is in the house versus when it's just the two of you after everyone else has gone to sleep. If you've noticed a difference, even one you couldn't name, you were noticing something real. Researchers observing domestic cats across different relational contexts have noted that cats show distinct vocal patterns depending on who they're interacting with. Some cats are notably quieter with secondary household members, more expressive, more varied, more communicative with their primary person. The relationship shapes the voice, and the voice over time maps the relationship. Here's the one that tends to catch people off guard. The she only meows for food argument. The dismissive one, the one people who don't really understand cats tend to offer, doesn't hold up when you look at the actual range of feline vocalization in bonded relationships. Yes, some meows are absolutely about hunger. That high-pitched, slightly urgent morning meow that happens reliably at the same time every day, that one has a specific acoustic signature that researchers have identified as embedded within a more general sound of solicitation, a sound designed to be difficult to ignore. But that is one thread in a much larger fabric. Feline ethologists have documented distinct vocalizations in bonded cats that appear in contexts entirely unrelated to food, sounds associated with proximity seeking, with comfort, with what can only be described as greeting. Your cat has an emotional vocabulary, not just a hunger signal, a vocabulary, and you are who she uses it with. Which brings the question somewhere it doesn't often get taken, somewhere that researchers are only beginning to map carefully. If your cat has been observing you this closely, refining her sounds around your responses, building a vocal vocabulary calibrated to your rhythms and your relationship, what does that mean about how she holds you in her mind when you're not in the room? When the house is quiet and you're somewhere she can't see you, what is she doing with all of that attention she's been paying? That question doesn't have a neat answer, but the science points toward one, and it changes something about how you understand what you are to her. There is something that gets overlooked in almost every conversation about cat behavior, and it matters here more than anywhere else. Cats are by nature extraordinarily economical communicators. In the wild, unnecessary sound is not neutral. It is dangerous. It announces location. It attracts attention from the wrong kind of living things. The cats who survived, generation after generation, not the loud ones, they were the quiet ones, the ones who communicated precisely efficiently, only when it counted. That heritage is still in your cat. It is still the foundation of how she moves through the world, which means that every sound she makes, every meow, every trill, every soft chirp she produces in your presence, represents a deliberate departure from her deepest instinct towards silence. She opens her mouth for you. That is not nothing. When you understand that, the special meow stops being a cute quirk and becomes something else entirely. It becomes evidence. Evidence that you are one of the very few things in your cat's world that she considers worth the vulnerability of sound. She does not meow at the window for nothing. She does not vocalize into empty rooms. She produces these sounds in the presence of the specific living being she has decided, through years of observation and accumulated trust, is safe enough, important enough, worth enough to speak to. You are that being. The voice she uses with you is not casual. It is, in the quiet language of feline behavior, something close to a declaration. Feline attachment research, particularly work exploring what behaviorists call secure base behavior in cats, has found that cats in bonded relationships with their primary humans display behavioral patterns that closely mirror attachment dynamics observed in other social mammals. They use their person as a reference point. They seek proximity during stress. They show signs of distress when separated and something that functions like relief upon return. This is not the behavior of an animal that is simply tolerating your presence because the food bowl appears on schedule. This is the behavior of an animal that has formed a genuine relational anchor. And the special meow, that personalized, calibrated, evolved overtime sound, is one of the ways that anchor expresses itself. Now here is the part that surprises people the most, and it's worth slowing down for. Not every deeply bonded cat becomes more vocal over time. Some go the other direction entirely. They get quieter. The meowing that was frequent in kittenhood or in the early months of the relationship gradually becomes rarer, more reserved, save for specific moments that carry specific weight. And this is not distance, this is not indifference settling in. What it actually represents in many cases is the development of a more sophisticated shared language. The meow becomes unnecessary for the ordinary because the ordinary has its own vocabulary now. A slow blink across a room, a tail held a certain way, a choice to sit close without touching. When the meow does come, in a cat like this, it carries more. It means more. A quiet cat who meows at you softly when you're having a hard day is not a cat who communicates less. She is a cat who has learned to speak with precision. This is especially worth holding on to if you share your home with more than one cat. Because here is something remarkable that feline behavioral observation has noted. In multi-cat households, the same human often draws out different vocalizations from different cats. Not just different in volume or frequency, different in character. One cat might have a high questioning trill she saves for you specifically. Another might have a low rumbling murmur that she uses only in your presence, never with your partner, never with the other cats. Same household, same human. Different sounds. Why? Because each relationship is its own thing. Each bond, built through its own particular history of mornings and evenings and quiet moments, shaped its own private dialect. The love, if we can call it that, and I think we can, does not look the same in every cat. But it is there in each of them, in the voice they built for you alone. And then there is the question of what she does when you're not there. It's one thing to notice that she has a sound she reserves for your presence. It's another to consider what that means about your absence. Studies examining how cats behave when their primary person is away have found that many cats show behavioral changes consistent with what researchers describe as social loss response: reduced activity, altered patterns of movement through the home, changes in vocalization. Some cats become quieter, some become more vocal, as if searching. What this suggests carefully is that you are not simply a fixture in her environment. You are a specific, irreplaceable presence that her whole behavioral system has organized itself around. The sound she makes for you is not just a greeting. It is part of how she holds the relationship together across time and space. So when you come home, when the door opens and she appears, and she makes that sound, understand what you're witnessing. She is not running a simple stimulus response program. She is not executing a hunger script. She is doing something that required years of quiet, patient attention to build. She is using a sound that emerged from every moment you responded to her, every time your voice softened when you heard her, every time the two of you exchanged something small and wordless and true in the middle of an ordinary day. That sound is the accumulated record of your relationship, compressed into something she can give you the moment you walk through the door. It is, in every sense that matters, the closest thing a cat has to saying your name. There is one more thing to say, the part that ties all of this together, the part that answers the question underneath everything else. We have talked about what the sound is, where it comes from, what it costs her to make it, what it reveals about how she holds you in her world. But there is a final layer, and it is the one that changes not just how you hear her meow, but how you understand yourself and her life. Because the sound she built for you did not come from her alone, it came from both of you. And what that means, what it really means, is where this has been going all along. Next time she makes that sound, that specific, quiet, unmistakable sound she saves for you, just listen to it differently. You know now what it took to build. You know what it means that she built it for you and no one else. That sound is not background noise. It is a record of everything the two of you have been to each other. If your cat has a sound like that, one you've never quite been able to describe to anyone who hasn't heard it, tell me about it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because every single one of those sounds is a different story, and every story sounds like the same thing underneath. You are her person. And if you want to understand the rest of the quiet language she uses with you, the slow blinks, the tail signals, the way she positions herself in a room when you're in it, there's more here waiting for you.